Stephen B. Young, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Marvelous. You know, let's just start out by saying this. Why don't you try to accomplish something, Stephen? I mean, you know, I looked at your bio. Man, you've done it all. It's pretty amazing.
Well, you try hard, but life goes its own way, and fate, steps in. And sometimes there are a lot of things you'd like to do to help yourself, your family, your country, and you run into obstacles. But that's the way it is.
You know what I really loved about your article? And I loved your article. I think it's right on the money. But to be totally honest with you, one of the things I loved about your article the most was I read the comment section afterward, and boy, you got ripped as much as I do when there's an article about me in the paper.
Well, we're living at times when a lot of people don't have a sense for goodwill, for good faith, for compassion, for reaching out to other people. It's kind of like my way or the highway.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly
too bad. That's too bad.
It is too bad, Stephen. But I really like the fact that Star Tribune stepped up and printed your opinion piece. I love the reaction to it. You didn't take a hard left or hard right approach to it. You just told the truth. And I think that was your big mistake for some people, is you told the truth. They don't like that.
Well, we've got this huge issue growing since 1968, since the country started to split into warring tribes. We now call them red and blue. And our President Trump talks about fake news. And so many people want the facts that fit their opinions. They don't want to shape their opinions to the facts. And that's just really bad for democracy, because you get a lot of narrow-minded people who are incapable of listening to others and working together. And in a big country like ours, how do you get stuff done when everybody wants to be the boss?
No question. Now, just to give kind of a background, if you don't mind that, Stephen, you volunteered to serve in Vietnam. Correct?
Right.
You were. I go down your list of accomplishments, because I was reading up on you after I read the article. I thought, there's one person out there that thinks, I don't know, it's not exactly the way I do. It's just, it's reasonable. Your approach is very reasonable, which is really unusual these days. You were weren't you a professor at Harvard? You attended Harvard?
I was an assistant dean at the Harvard Law School, and then I came out to Minnesota to be dean at the Hamline University Law School. And I've done a lot of writing and working on various projects, for the city of St. Paul where we live, or Minnesota, or internationally, or here and there. Written a couple of books. I dabbled in politics a bit in the 1990s, but always with some sense, and it's an old-fashioned sense, and I guess I got it from like my grandmothers in particular, that if you're a good person, you want to help your society, you want to help your country. It's about us somehow, and meeting other people halfway at least. It's not about me. But then we had this baby boomer generation, maybe our generation, certainly mine, which got brought up in the 50s and early 60s in one of the richest and most comfortable countries in the history of humanity, and it all turned about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I loved about it.
Do you think that it turned about them because of the parenting style, or why did it become about them? My background is law. I don't know about that, but thinking about this stuff for so long, and then when you try to raise your own kids in this new environment, I think it was the parents. I think it was the greatest generation, actually. Looking back at my family, and the husbands basically. This is a generation, they'd come through the Depression, tough times, and then the young men went off to fight and win World War II, and they came back, and I think they had a sense, sort of, that our kids will never suffer. We're going to take care of them. So this is a generation of big allowances for kids. Yeah.
Suburbs, basically, kids were indulged by mom and dad, and you grew up into the 60s, and then all of a sudden you hit these realities of the civil rights movement, of the communists trying to take over Vietnam, the Cold War, and a lot of people, in retrospect, going back to arguments I had at Harvard College, I was a student there with friends Vietnam War and politics and other things, is that the world was not designed by God for you to make you happy, right? And and a lot of people had trouble with that. It's like, wait a moment, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, and I think it came from the parents actually, which is kind of it's tough to say because the greatest generation, in some ways, they were the greatest generation, you know.
Mr. Young?
Yeah, they were. Absolutely. I've gotten in a lot of trouble over the past 32 years on this show because I'm just a few years younger than you. So pretty much same ballpark. And I've talked for years on the show about the fact that my generation destroyed America. Pretty much. Because it was the free love thing. Well, where did that bring us? It was share the land. Where'd that all the fantastic ideas when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, and the horrible things that had happened in 63, many, many horrible things in the late 60s, of course, 68 being the biggest year of them all. But what I loved about your article, and I loved it from start to finish. I agreed with everything you said in the article, which is really unusual because I'm a very disagreeable person, Stephen. I just want you to know that.
Well, there are a lot of people who listen to you, so you can't be all bad, huh?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they just like to go, thank God I'm not him. But anyway, the thing that I really, really liked was I read the comments on it, and people were very, very upset. And it's something that we've talked about for years, correlation and causation. But what people don't seem to understand is what might be causation to you might be correlation to me. If we don't see things the same way, it could be the same thing, and we just don't use the same word. Not always, but in certain situations. I do think that our generation, and now hearing you talk about the greatest generation, kicking things off by pampering, then our generation came along and took things down a much different road, giving people the impression that it was all about free love and free land and do as many drugs as you want and do it. It was not a good idea.
Yeah, but the sad thing for our generation and then coming on down, and especially now what's happened to education, higher education and public education, is that, the greatest thinkers in humanity over the centuries, and I'm not just talking about white European males, right? I mean, I've studied, I've read, a lot of stuff in Asia. So Confucius, Mencius, Buddha, the Quran itself are always talking about how our freedom is in the context of other people. And therefore, none of us can demand everything. We have to have some notion, restraints in their limits, and therefore self-control and virtue is a much wiser course for us to become happy. I think the insights are, if you think everything is going to come your way, you're going to have a very sad life.
Yes, yes.
Can I ask, when intelligent people are getting ready to walk into a room and to speak with other intelligent people, part of it has to be his ego checked in the hallway. I have an expression, you might be the smartest guy in the room, but wait till you get into the room to determine it. Don't determine it in the hallway or the drive over.
Yeah.
And then the other part is, if we sort of want to base our value, individually and collectively, upon worth, we actually say, well, he's worth more. Whatever worth is to somebody, isn't that sort of the inherent problem that we have the system of basing, are you big, powerful, or good, on wealth?
Yeah, no, I think that is, but I think there's part of that in human history, and I think our psychology, but I think that's really a modern phenomenon kicked off. I mean, I'm kind of a buff on history of ideas and stuff like that, but I think it was kicked off in the 19th century where we began, or our intellectuals like Karl Marx and a guy we've forgotten about, Herbert Spencer, who created social Darwinism, they started breaking with this moral tradition, particularly of Christianity. And so Marx says what? Everything's about power, right? Everything's about who rules, who's the ruling class. This guy Spencer picked up this thing they called it social Darwinism, which is it's all about power. If I'm bigger, more money, and I crush you, then I'm the winner. And somehow we've forgotten the as Lincoln said, the better angels of our nature. And we more and more, with a very successful modern economy, it is about money and wealth and power and pushing other people around, and that just alienates lots of people and puts their teeth on edge, and fear comes up and anger comes up.
And how can we ever get back to a sense of virtue and character? We had our meeting. I run this little nonprofit on moral capitalism. We had our meeting in Wittenberg, Germany, in last November, 500 years after Martin Luther, and I presume there are a lot of Lutherans listening to your show, started this Protestant Reformation, and he had this idea of a vocation of virtue. That, yes, we can make money. Yes, we can have jobs. Yes, we should have a nice, warm house, right? But somehow it has to be tied to a larger sense of serving God, serving our family, serving the country, so that our selfishness is balanced, the way you were talking about, in a realistic way with concern for the community. And I don't know where we've sort of lost that.
Yeah, that's really interesting, but you're right. It doesn't seem to exist. It's not predominant. I think there are some people who care, but not the majority.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in front of you there, Stephen. I wanted to ask you a question. Do you at times, when it's late at night or early in the morning and you're awake wandering around the house and you're by yourself, do you sometimes feel kind of lonely thinking the way you do? Because you seem to grasp all sides, and I guess some people either don't want to or just can't do that.
Well, I guess the truth is I don't want to walk down that road.
Yeah.
Then then that sort of does things to you, into your interior and psychology and stuff. And the effort, I think, is you try to make a case to other people in a reasonable way, and you continue to reach out, and you try to build coalitions, or small or large, and speak your piece. And I do want to say that I'm really grateful to the Star Tribune, even though I disagree with a lot of their editorials and a lot of other commentators, for giving me space to put my ideas forward, to maybe counter some of the extremes of other people, and also give other people an opportunity, because I do get emails. People will come. I got a bunch of them after this column saying, Steve, I disagree with this, and this, but you made me think on this, or I really hadn't thought about your point, so and so. So I look to those things as to give you kind of a sense that, we can still work together. We can still make this a better country.
I know it's not a 30-second thing, so I'm putting you on the spot. But I've also contended that one of the schools you went to and worked at in Harvard, I think it's a $39 billion endowment. I'm really put off by the idea that there's any tuition at Harvard, because I believe that why do you want somebody saddled with student loans? If they want to become a teacher, give them an opportunity. If they want to work in public service with a Harvard degree, that's fantastic. But why does a school with a $39 billion endowment actually have to charge a tuition? Because I don't think you're actually building what it is you not think could build, but could build. Put people out into the world without the burden of what you're talking about, making money the only thing that matters.
Yeah, no, I don't give money to Harvard anymore. I'm just unhappy with what it is and what it represents in our society.
What do you think it represents?
Do you believe the education should be free?
Free? No, I don't believe things. Generally speaking, I don't believe things should be free. Right? I think we have to work for things in various ways. Whether you should charge somebody whatever Harvard does now, $63,000 a year for 1 year of education. My real problem with Harvard is the arrogance, the intellectual arrogance that they know better than everybody else, and that they're not putting out our elite with any sense of service, with no ethic of service to the country.
God, I love this man. I love this man.
Michelle, is this? I've been talking to John about this for days, and again, I agree with you. Thank God that the Star Tribune stepped up and printed your article. Stephen, I have to tell you, there's not one thing in your article I disagree with.
There's something wrong with both of us then, probably.
Yeah, well, you already talked about that. We made reference to it. But I just was very excited to get you on because you don't take a hardline position. You tell the truth. And it's not your version of the truth.
It's factual.
It's how I remember things happening. When I read your article, I really connected with the article and therefore you, I guess. And I was hoping, because at first I thought, I don't know if he'll actually want to come on the show, but I certainly hope he does. You used several terms like Protestant ethic of self-discipline and personal responsibility rejected by the boomers. It just really hit home with me because, as you said, we got a lot of Protestant listeners, you know. It just is the way it is. But suffering through the